The house stood on a quiet street, bathed in the golden light of a summer afternoon. It was 2012, and we were filled with the anticipation and excitement that comes with new beginnings. We stepped across the threshold, unaware of the darkness that lingered within those walls, a darkness that would soon weave itself into the fabric of our lives. The first few weeks were uneventful, filled with the mundane tasks of unpacking and settling in. But then, the subtle disturbances began. A flicker of movement in the periphery, a fleeting glimpse of a small figure darting down the hallway. We dismissed these occurrences as tricks of the light or figments of our imagination, our minds playing tricks on us in the unfamiliar surroundings. We were, after all, still adjusting to our new home, yet, as the days turned into weeks, these fleeting glimpses became more frequent, more persistent. A shadow flitting across the living room floor, a whisper of sound that vanished as quickly as it came. There was a palpable shift in the atmosphere, a growing sense of unease that settled upon us like a shroud. We tried to ignore it, to rationalize it away, but deep down, a seed of doubt had been sown. The figure, always small and indistinct, became a recurring presence in our lives. It was always there, lurking just beyond the edge of our vision, a phantom child that haunted the corners of our home. I would catch sight of it out of the corner of my eye, a fleeting glimpse of movement that sent a shiver down my spine. Turning quickly, I would find nothing, only the empty hallway stretching out before me. My boyfriend, initially skeptical, dismissed my concerns as nerves. "It's just the house settling," he would say, his voice calm and reassuring. But I knew better. There was something else here, something unseen that watched us from the shadows. The air grew heavy with unspoken tension. The once welcoming walls now seemed to press in on us, suffocating us with their silent observation. We were living on edge, our senses heightened, every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of leaves outside the window sending a jolt of fear through us. One evening, as we sat in the living room, the tension finally snapped. The figure, bolder now, darted across the doorway, clearly visible to both of us. My boyfriend, his face ashen, finally understood the fear that had taken root in my heart. He had seen it too. The look in his eyes, a mixture of terror and disbelief, mirrored my own. We were no longer alone in our fear, but the shared experience offered little comfort. The incident shattered our sense of security, leaving us vulnerable and afraid in our own home. We were no longer just dealing with fleeting glimpses and unexplained noises. We were face to face with something unknown, something that defied explanation. The realization hung in the air between us, unspoken but palpable. We tried to maintain a semblance of normalcy, but the fear lingered, a constant undercurrent in our lives. The disturbances escalated, no longer content with fleeting appearances. Cabinets slammed shut with violent force. Objects moved inexplicably across countertops. The house seemed to be rebelling against our presence, as if trying to drive us out. Sleep became a distant memory, replaced by a constant state of hypervigilance. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of wind down the chimney, sent our hearts racing. I would lie awake at night listening to the house groan and settle around us, my mind conjuring up images of the figure lurking in the shadows. The fear was a living, breathing thing, coiling itself around my chest, squeezing the air from my lungs. We tried to rationalize the events, to find logical explanations for the unexplainable. But deep down, we knew that something was terribly wrong. Our once happy home had become a prison, a place of fear and dread. Section 5. A Child's Eyes. Years passed, and we welcomed a son into our lives. For a while the disturbances subsided, lulled into abeyance by the innocence of a child. But as our son grew older, he too began to notice things. He would point to empty corners of the room, his big, innocent eyes wide with wonder. "Mommy, who's that?" he would ask, his voice filled with a child's untainted curiosity. My heart would clench in my chest, a mixture of fear and dread washing over me. How do you explain the unexplainable to a child, especially when you don't understand it yourself? I tried to brush it off, to convince both him and myself that it was just his imagination. "It's nothing, sweetheart," I would say, forcing a smile onto my face. "Just shadows playing tricks on you." But even as I spoke the words, I felt a chill run down my spine. Children, with their innocent hearts and unclouded minds, have a way of seeing things that adults miss. They are more attuned to the unseen world, more susceptible to its influence. And my son, it seemed, had become aware of the darkness that haunted our home. The laughter began subtly, a child's giggle echoing down the hallway in the dead of night. It was a chilling sound, filled with an unnatural joy that sent shivers down my spine. One night, I awoke to the sound of my son's laughter coming from his room. I rushed to his side, my heart pounding in my chest, only to find him sitting up in bed, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and fascination. "Mommy," he whispered, his voice trembling. I saw the tall man again. He was standing in the corner watching me. The tall man, a figure of inky blackness, had become a recurring character in my son's nightly terrors. He spoke of him often, his voice filled with a mixture of fear and morbid fascination. The laughter, I soon realized, was not coming from my son. It was coming from something else, something that lurked in the shadows, something that was toying with us. The realization sent a wave of terror crashing over me. We were no longer dealing with a harmless presence. This was something sinister, something malevolent. One afternoon, as my son played hide-and-seek with some neighborhood children, the unthinkable happened. He emerged from his hiding spot in the basement, his eyes wide with terror, his face pale as death. "The bright child," he gasped, his breath coming in ragged sobs. I saw the bright child in the basement. The other children, sensing his terror, scattered, their laughter replaced by shrieks of fear. The bright child, unlike the tall man, was a new entity, one that filled my son with a different kind of fear. While the tall man terrified him, the bright child disturbed him, its presence unsettling, its joy unnerving. My son refused to go back into the house, his fear palpable. He stood on the sidewalk, his small body trembling, his eyes fixed on the front door as if it were a gateway to hell itself. From that day forward, my son refused to sleep in his room, terrified that the bright child or the tall man would come for him. He would only sleep in our room, huddled between us, seeking comfort in our presence. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of wind down the chimney, sent him cowering beneath the covers. The house, once our sanctuary, had become a prison, a constant reminder of the darkness that surrounded us. We tried everything to rid ourselves of the entities. We brought in priests, psychics, paranormal investigators, but nothing seemed to work. The laughter continued, the shadows lingered, and the fear remained, a constant weight on our chests. We are trapped, my family and I, in a nightmare of our own making. The entities, the tall man and the bright child, have become unwelcome guests in our home, their presence a constant source of fear and anxiety. We are desperate, our hope dwindling with each passing day. How do you fight something you can't see? Something that exists on the periphery of your reality, something that feeds on your fear. We are left with a chilling truth. Some houses hold more than just memories. Some houses hold secrets, darkness that festers and grows, feeding on the energy of its inhabitants. And sometimes, no matter how hard you try, you can't escape the darkness that resides within your own home. We are left to grapple with the unknown, to search for answers in the shadows, to pray for a solution that may never come. We are prisoners in our own home, haunted by the unseen and tormented by the unknown.